Okay, so for this video, we are going to start with our Statistics 2 Chapter 4 lah. So we are talking about sampling and estimation. This chapter actually consists of two sections. The first one is sampling, and then the second one is estimation. Alright, so for this semester lah, we plan just to complete the sampling part. So the second part, which is the estimation, we are going to continue maybe in the next semester. Right? Okay, so what is sampling about? And then what are important things here? Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so for learning outcome 4.1, that means after this session, what you need to know is like you need to know what is the meaning of a sample and also what is the meaning for a population. Sample and population actually have different meaning, so you have to make sure you know that what is the difference between them. And after that, when we talk about the sampling set method, right, you actually no need to explain in detail. Okay, but you just need to know that how we use the random number to produce the random sample. Okay, all right, so these are the two important things that you need to know, right? Okay, so from this chapter onwards, right, you will see the word population and also you'll see the word sample very frequently. All right, so let us have a look what's the meaning of population. So population means that it is a large group, or maybe it is a particular group of people. So we call it as a population. Okay, so population, right, it not necessarily must be always very large one. It can be a small group also. It can be very, very large. It can be until like infinite numbers. That means there are too many people until you cannot cover each of them. All right, so that's what we call as population. So population is a whole group, okay, of people that you want to find a certain value from this group of people. So this whole group we call as population. So as an example, like students in the class, okay, so people in England who are in full-time employment and in hospital in Wales. All right, so usually when you want to collect the information from a population, right, you need to carry out a census or a survey. Okay, so census means that every member of the population is surveyed, so we call it census. And then when the population is small, right, then it will be quite straightforward because you want to include everyone. Okay, in your census, then it's quite easy lah. Okay, if let's say the population is small, all right. Okay, but somehow you'll find that if let's say, how to say, if your population is larger, then it is quite impossible for you, okay, to get the data from every single item or maybe from every single people. All right. So in that case, we actually need to do a smaller census and we call it as sample survey. Okay, so sample survey means that because you want to avoid the census because it involves every single one in the population, right? So it is time consuming for census. It is also a waste of money lah. Because when you carry out all this process, you need budget and you need maybe some expenses. All right, so somehow they come up with a sample survey, which means that we actually selecting some group from the population, okay, to collect the information. So we call it a sample survey. Okay, so we assume that the sample that we carry out the survey is good enough to represent the whole population. All right. Okay, because actually you want to find the population value, correct or not? Just that you want to save costs, you want to cut costs, you want to save time. Therefore, you carry out a smaller scale of the survey and we call it as a census, the sample survey. Okay, all right. So to carry out the sample survey, you need to ensure that the sample that you select is good enough, okay, to represent the whole population. Okay, all right. So all this you can go through the detail because all the detail will not be asked in the exam, but it is just to let you know what is it about. Okay, so you just go through it roughly and to roughly know what is the meaning. Okay, right. Then now let's talk about random sample. Okay, so sample, what is sample? Okay, so if a set of data cover less than 100% of the population, then we call it as a sample. All right, okay, so as an example, if let's say just now, if you look at this one, okay, let's say your population is pupils in a class. So let's say pupils in SEC 1, 3, 1, 2. Let's okay, maybe say SDC 1312 lah. So I assume that the pupils in SDC 1312, this whole group of students are maybe a population. And then if let's say I want to select a sample from it, then maybe the sample can be pupils in the class SDC 1312 A1. That means we restrict it to a smaller group. A1 is another smaller group, right? Because for SDC 1312 got a lot. Like we have A1, A2, March 1, March 2, and so on. Okay, so if let's say we want to make it in a smaller group or smaller sample, then we can separate it, become SDC 1312 A1. So this one I will call as okay, so this one is a population. Okay, all right. So that's the big difference between sample and population. So sample means that it covers less than 100% of the population, so we call it as a sample. So the sample can be also large, it can be also small. Okay, all right. But if let's say we add a word in front of the sample, if we call it as a random sample, okay, so it is a bit more complicated, because if you want to get a random sample, right, you have to make sure that every member in the population has equal chance of being selected. And also all the possible sample of size n have an equal chance of being selected. As long as you see the word equal chance, like every single element, every single object, every single member, okay, in a population must have the equal chance to be selected to become a sample. So that particular sample we will call as a random sample. Okay, so when we add in the word random, so you must know that, okay, it is not so straightforward anymore. Okay, you have to make sure that all the element that you selected to be a sample, right, it must be random enough. So that means all of them from the population have equal chance to be selected to go into the sample. Okay, all right, and then what is sampling with replacement, what is sampling without replacement, you go through and have a look. Okay, read through it, it is not important. Okay, so how to select a random sample? If you search this part online, they will actually provide you a lot of different methods for selecting a sample. For our A-level syllabus, we only focus on one method here, so which is the random number table. Okay, so random number table means it is a table that consists of a lot of numbers that occur or appear randomly. Okay, there's no specific pattern, there's nothing, okay, but the number is appear randomly. So how we get a number that appear randomly? We can use an app to create it, okay, or maybe a computer to create it and so on. There are many ways to create it, okay. All right, so all the data must be independent and random from each other. So the random number table like this, okay, all the numbers appear actually are independent from each other. So you don't ask me how I get all the numbers from. Actually just copy from any table that I have, and then I just put it inside. Okay, random. The random means that there's no specific pattern, there's no specific ways, okay, to create a number. So it is appear randomly. All right. So this is a random table that we have. So please take note that for the random table that we can find, right? It can be arranged in any pattern. Like this one, they arrange 5 numbers in a row, in a group. Okay, so some may just list out the number, okay, in a very list. All right, so it depends. So no matter how, as long as all the number here created randomly by computer or by some other methods, right? So we will call this as a random number table. Okay. All right, so it is usual to start at the first number on the left. Usually when we want to read the table, we'll start from the left-hand side and then the first number on the first row. Okay, but if let's say you want to start it randomly for any number also can. All right, but in exam, for exam purpose, we'll still start from the first number on the left unless they ask you to start from the other way. Okay, if let's say they didn't mention anything in the exam, please make sure that you read your random table from the first number on the left. Okay. All right, so now let's continue and have a look. How are we going to select sample from the random number table? Okay, so let's have a look for example 1. Okay, so example 1, you have 89 students in a statistics class, and I want to choose 5 students to form a project group. Okay, or maybe I will say that, okay, I want to find 5 students to wash the toilet. So no one volunteer one, right? Definitely from the 89 students, right or not? So I have to select it randomly to make sure that it is fair, because some students might say that, teacher, you're not fair one because you know my name, that's why you call me. All right, so to be fair, what is the correct process that for me, I want to collect, or maybe I want to form a random sample with 5 students. Okay, so first, you need to give each student a number from 01 to 89. Okay, because I'm having 89 students in a class. Therefore, when I assign number, I must assign each of them with 2-digit one. So number 1 means 01. Number 2 means 02. Okay? Alright, so until 89. Okay, so after that, you choose 5 pairs of random digit from the random number table. So I will want to choose the students already. Okay, so first, I go through the number 2 digits by 2 digits. So the first number selected will be 41. Okay, this is my first students being selected. And then the second number will be 51. Okay, the third number will be 29. The fourth number will be 61. Okay, so the next one will be 14. So I get these 5 numbers up. So that means these students with these 5 numbers will be selected in the group. So that is the random sample. Okay, all right. So maybe when you go through like this, it looks like very easy, right? Actually, it's really a very easy process. You just read through the table and then you try to list out, okay, the students with the number. Then you from here you already form a random sample. Okay, so there are some things that you need to know. First, if let's say if I continue to select the next students, okay, so if let's say I want to have the 6th student, so the 6th student here is 41. And you see that 41 already been selected just now, right? So this one will not be counted. So you continue to get the next 2 numbers. Okay, all right. Or if you continue to read all the number, right? If let's say you want to find more than 5, you want to find a few more. Okay, if let's say you continue to read, and you get 99. Okay, if you get 99, is there any students with number 99 or not? Yes, no, right? Therefore, you also straight away ignore it and then you continue with the next 2 numbers. All right, so this is how they explain it. If the number between 90 and 00 is chosen, then you just choose the other number. So the 5 number with those numbers from the group. Okay, so like what I showed you just now, we already get the 5 numbers there, right? So what are the 5 numbers that are selected? 41, 51, 29, 61, and also 14. Okay, so that means these 5 numbers will form a random sample, and this sample we call as a random sample because I choose it from a random number table. Okay, so in exam, you need to know how to collect or how to select the correct numbers, okay, from the random number table to form the random sample. Okay, and then the solution here, right? The steps here, if can, you try to roughly know how they write out the steps. Because if I'm not mistaken, there's 1 year they actually ask the students to list out the steps to find out the random sample. So I think you should try to understand the step here and you try to memorize and understand it. If not, at least you should know how to write it out in your own words, okay, in an easy way. All right. Okay, then let's continue to example 2. Okay, so for example 2, I want to take a random sample of 4 numbers, and each number is to 3 decimal place, and then the number should be between 0 until 5 by using the random number table provided below. Okay, I only want the 4 numbers, and each of the 4 numbers must have 3 decimal places. So if let's say I want to have 3 decimal places, when I read through the number, right, the table, how many digits should I read through? So you can say that if I'm having 0.321, 3 decimal places, right? But it must have 4 digits, correct or not? So later when you read the table, you have to read every 4 digits together. Okay, then next one, the next condition is the value that you select must be between 0 until 5. Okay, so let's start. First one, 6.389. So if let's say you want to form a number with 3 decimal places, it should be 6.389. Okay, so should I accept the 6.389 or not? No, because it is already more than 5. So next one, 7.670. Should I accept this one? No also. Next one, 2903. That means you will have 2.903. So do you think that should I accept this value? Yes, right. So 2.903 will be my first number. Understand? So if let's say you continue further, what else do you have? 7245. So that means you are having 7.245. So should you accept the 7.245 or not? No. Okay, so please continue to get all the value yourself. Okay, your final answer here should be this 4. If you follow the sequence that I show you, the last 4 number that you want is, so these 4 numbers are the correct answer if you continue to read through all the value. Okay, all right. Then next one, example number 3. Okay, so for example number 3, there's an editor of the magazine, right? They want to obtain the view of a random sample of readers about the future of the magazine. Okay, so there's a sub-editor proposed that they include 1 issue of the magazine, a questionnaire for the readers to complete and return. Okay, for the readers to complete and return. Okay, so give the reason why the readers who read the questionnaire might not form a random sample. So that means for this question, they're asking you why the questionnaire or why the views that they collect here is not random enough. Okay, so here if you read through it very carefully, they only include 1 issue of the magazine, okay, in a questionnaire. There's only focus on 1 issue. Okay, so that means you can see that only readers of that particular issue will respond. Right, because if let's say you found that this issue is not related to you, then generally you won't respond, right? So that means the random sample, the views that you collect is only focused on that issue only. So that means it is not random enough, because if you want it to be random, that means all the issue related to the magazine should be included. Okay, all right. So what is another reason? Well, of course, this answer I also get it from the marking scheme. In the exam, you can try to use any way, okay, or any of your sentence or words to write out the meaning. So no need to purposely go and follow this one. All right. Okay, then the other reason is only the more committed readers or less busy one will give response. Why? Because when you include the questionnaire in the magazine, right? Most of the time, if they look at the questionnaire, if they are very busy or they are not interested on that, then generally they won't give any feedback. Okay, so that means there are only more committed readers or less busy readers will give response because they want to complete and return. All right, so maybe if I say some very busy readers, they won't go and do this now. All right, okay, so all this reason here, of course, in exam, I might not be able to write out such a nice sentence, but you just try to use your own way to write out. As long as the meaning is there, then usually examiner will give you the marks. All right, okay, so let's continue further. Okay, so the editor decides to use a table of random number to select a random sample of 50 readers from 7,000 over readers. So these regular readers are numbered from 1 until 7302. The first few random number the editor obtained from the table are as follows. So use this table to select the first 3 members in the sample. So this I leave it for you. Okay, so the answer should be 54975. 7802, then 3952. Okay, so which is very, very straightforward and easy. Okay, all right, so this is what we have for selecting the random sample by using a random number table. So this part is seldom asked, but if they ask, you have to make sure that you know how to read the random sample correctly. And also, at least you need to know, like example one just now, you need to roughly know how to list out the correct step to select the random sample. Okay, so we'll stop here for this part, and then in the next video we will discuss the sampling distribution. So this part will be more on calculation. All right.